Hi, welcome to How I See It. This is episode 13, and today I'm going to talk about bullying. Um, I was bullied in elementary school. I think one time I had rotten bananas thrown at me because I wore the wrong color shoes. Um, most of the time it was, I can't remember the specific bullying, like what was said to me or anything like that. It all kind of stopped around the time I was 12, but the damage was done. After that, it was always if I heard something like fat or ugly, I I would assume it was about me. Um, or if kids were laughing, I assumed they were laughing at me. Um, but I never really like looked around to see. So I don't, so I know that probably heck, probably 100% of the time, they weren't laughing at me. They weren't calling me those names. They were talking about somebody else. Because I have found later in life that I'm invisible. I'm unremarkable. They weren't laughing at me because they didn't notice me. But I kept to myself, especially once I didn't really, like, once I got more into high school and was rarely, when you're in high school, you don't really hang with your friends a lot, as you're going from class to class. So I would go from class to class. It was like a beeline to it, head down, don't talk to anybody, don't look at anybody, just get there, sit down, you know. But, if I heard laughter or whatever, bullying is nothing new. Um, it changes over time. Um, but there's always bullies. There's always somebody who feels like shit, and they pick on somebody who they feel is of a lower social class than them. Whoever they feel like is beneath them, they can pick on them. And then that person, if that person is not of the mind to say, hey, this doesn't happen to me all the time, so on and so forth, I'm not going to pay it any mind. I'm not going to let it affect my day. He's just an asshole, so on and so forth. But for the most part, the bullies are really good at picking, people who bully are really good at picking um, somebody who's used to getting picked on. You spot it. And I knew in my school days, I knew the kid that I could pick on. Shit rolls downhill, and it's like you know. It's like if you know the levels of the totem pole, you can pick who's beneath you on it, and then they of course have someone beneath them. We've always got, so bullying is nothing new. There is a big difference now, though. Like, you can't escape it with Facebook and Twitter and, well, maybe not so much with Twitter, but with Facebook and Snapchat and Instagram. It's kind of hard to outrun the stuff being done, because you can switch schools, but everybody's kind of connected. You can't just show up somewhere and nobody know who you are. No, they'll figure it out. They'll find out. But it doesn't really matter if you can't escape it, because people have always felt that way. Kids being bullied in school, a lot of times, like, their parents weren't going to send them to another school. They weren't going to let them go live with relatives, because I think that in the end they knew that no matter where you go, people are going to see that you're that kind of victim, and you're going to be victimized. That's just how it goes. And I think that in the past, when bullying occurred, if it really bothered somebody, and their parents noticed it or whatever, they would say, well, pop them in the mouth real good. Violence works. But it was always, just show them you ain't a punk ass bitch. You know, go punch them. Even if you get your ass whooped, at least they know you're going to fight. And, you know, maybe we need to go back to that. Back to that instead of saying, you know, oh, well, it doesn't exist, or we can't do anything if we don't see anything. When a kid comes up to a teacher and says, this kid or these kids, because a lot of times nowadays it's a pack mentality. It is a pack bullying a kid. And for teachers to say, well, we can't do anything if we don't see it, or if nobody else will corroborate it. Dealing with a pack of bullies, and it's real easy for them to be a pack of bullies, because in school you want to be accepted, you want to have friends, so you're not going to stand up for the kid that the leader of your pack has decided they want to pick on. You're not going to stand up to them. You're not going to tell on them because you want to be a part of their pack. You don't want to be the one getting picked on. And there's also the threat of retaliation. These kids deciding to whoop up on you because you're a little snitching bitch. You know, we've got that going on. And the thing is the teachers are like, well, if we don't see it or we don't hear it, there's nothing we can do. Well, you got to realize that if this kid's coming to you and telling you that this is happening, that takes a lot of courage on their part, because they don't want to tell. I mean, kids don't want to tell on other kids. I mean, for the most part, you know, they don't want to be little tattletales, and they'll accept, you know, 1 or 2 bad days of somebody saying something that they don't like. You know, so for them to go up and say, hey, I'm being bullied. And plus, if you talk to that kid's parents, the kid that's coming to you and saying, hey, I'm being bullied, if that kid has younger siblings, if you talk to their parents will tell you that, yeah, they're picking on their little sibling, you know, or they're picking on their sometimes it's even an older sibling if they feel like that older sibling is beneath them. They will see it. If parents are paying attention, they'll know. I mean, if you're paying attention to your kid, you know. And so for things to get so bad where parents are like, well, we had no idea that they were getting bullied, and you know, this poor kid kills themselves or they shoot up a school, there's signs. I mean, I know that I would lash out at a kid. Now, I don't know what he went home and did. I don't know how because I'm not the only kid that picked on him. I'm sure it was other kids that were getting bullied, and then of course the kids that would bully me were probably also bullying that kid. Last I checked, he ain't killed himself, and he ain't ended up in prison, and he dang sure didn't shoot up the school. And I know in high school he still wasn't Mr. Popular. So I don't know what's going on that these kids just figure to bring it into their own hands. Maybe it's video games, maybe it's TV, maybe it's the media. Because you know, we look at things and we say, oh, well, I'd like to be famous, but I don't want to be famous for that. And some people just don't make that distinction. We have to remember that some people don't care how they get famous. They want to be known. And they don't care what it's for. They don't care. You know, they just want to be remarkable. And something other than a laughing stock, you know, because that's the thing about being bullied is most of the time when you're bullied, people are laughing at you. They're acting like you're nothing. And you can't do anything about it. So even if, you know, so they're thinking, well, you know, if I shoot up the school, they're going to respect that I'm a big bad man and I was a threat. I am somebody. Look at me. They don't care. It's not about what they do. It's about being noticed, being recognized for something. Being recognized as, oh shit, he wasn't a punk ass bitch. and even though I personally think that somebody who shoots up a school is a punk ass bitch, I do feel somewhat sorry for them. But not because they were bullied, because I think that that is somewhat of a rite of passage for some people, because a lot of people are bullied and they don't do stuff like that. Maybe they're mentally stronger. Maybe when they get home, their parents notice and try to help them by saying, you know, let them say what they're gonna say. It's not true because you are none of these things. I don't know exactly what, because I don't recall my parents ever really giving a shit that I was bullied, if they even knew. I don't know if they knew. I don't know if I ever told them. Um, I don't know if I exhibited signs of it. Because when I got home, I had my Walkman and I had my dog and I had TV and I had an Atari, and that was all I really gave a shit about. Because when you're a kid, for the most part, you really only care about what's happening right this second. Now, by the time I hit 12, it was different. And I think that if I would have been bullied, then my parents would have seen that there was a major problem. I would hope, but the thing is you have to pay attention to your kids. You have to pay attention to what they're into, what they think is cool. I mean, if they're looking at a school shooting on the news and they're like, oh man, like really pay attention to, are they like, oh, they fucked up? Okay, did they fuck up because they killed a bunch of kids, or did they fuck up because they didn't take enough firepower, they didn't plan enough? Like really pay attention to how your kid is viewing that kind of thing. When they see that a crime has happened, are they appalled? Do they feel bad for the victims? Do they, I mean, seriously, you need to talk to your kids in general, you know, and see how they feel about certain things, gauge stuff. Now, granted, if your kid's a sociopath, they may not be appalled. And being a sociopath does not make you a killer. Being a sociopath does not mean that you know, a sociopath can take bullying different ways. Like, a sociopathic kid can figure out that there's something wrong with them, and do nothing. Say, it's not going to bother me. Or they can take it as, they want to kill that person. And maybe it's just that person or those people that are bullying them. So they're like, well, hey, I'm going to come up with a plan to just get those people because they don't want to accidentally hit their favorite teacher. Other sociopathic kids being bullied, they'll figure out ways to take it away from them. Of course, most of the time, sociopaths, if they're being bullied, they're not a really great target because they're not affected by it, at least not in a way that the bully would find reason to keep bullying. But so I don't think that these kids that shoot up schools are sociopaths of any kind or even psychopaths. I think that they are people that have hit their limit and they're just not strong enough mentally to put to really figure out how to handle the situation. I think that they are maybe it's kind of like the battered wife syndrome with these people that commit the school shootings. That they've just gotten to that point where they can't take anymore, and the only course that they see is to kill. And once again, that's where parents come in, because parents, I tell my daughter who's bullied, I'm always giving her snarky comebacks, just say this to him. Of course, she won't do it. I'm like, just freaking tell him something, do something, like, Like, she come home and she was upset. She had like a little, I don't think it was a cold sore. I think she just had a pimple really close to her mouth. And the kids were saying she had herpes. And I'm like, well, did you turn around and say, what, you want to kiss me? I'm like, just, because I mean, the thing is they don't want that. That's not what, if you are unaffected by what they say, they don't like that. They want, some of them even want you to punch them or to come at them. It depends on what kind of bully they are. But most of them, I mean, it's a very rare bully who wants you to come at them. Most of them want you to cower. They want you to look at them like they provide your identity. And and if they say that you are weak, unimportant, you're shit under their shoe, then that's what you are. They want to be your god, the thing that you aspire to be. Um, and you just have to show them that they're not that to you. That's the big thing with that, is that you have to show a bully that their opinion is nothing to you. They are nothing to you. Um, because that takes the power away from them. And what they want is power. They want the power to make somebody feel like shit, to make somebody feel less than what they are. They want you to feel bad. And the thing is, when you don't give them that, they're going to move on to the next person. And like I said earlier, they're experts at spotting it on you. You have to look at a bully as a predator. They are a predator, much like men who beat women, child molesters, killers. They all know what kind of person to pick, and they just have to pick a person that fits what they want with what they can see. And that's why, women will say, why do I always pick men that beat me? Because you have it. It may as well be written across your head that that's the problem. And with women who are always victims, the biggest way for them to remove that mark is self-defense classes or empowerment courses, things that let them know that they're not victims. They don't have to be. They can be strong. And then they run around, like you take somebody who's used to getting groped or molested out in the world, because these guys are predators too. These guys that accidentally grab your ass, they're predators too. And say a girl gets tired of that. She gets tired of men backing her up into a wall and objectifying her or molesting her in some way, shape, or form. She goes and gets self-defense classes. So she knows how to flip a motherfucker's arm around. She knows how to get his hand and break his fingers, or do stuff. After she knows that she can do that, after she knows that she can disable somebody, she's going to find that she's walking around going, I wish a motherfucker would. Well, it's the same way with bullies. You figure out a way to basically twist their arm back. And then you're going to say, I wish a motherfucker would come up to me and say some shit. Because they're going to stop. Because they won't see it in you anymore. They see that confidence. And they know that they can't go up against that. They don't have that kind of power. It's not worth their time. Or they're going to get put in their place. And the last thing that a predator wants is to be seen for what they are. They don't want you to see what they're trying so hard to hide. Because once you see it, they have to look at we all have these things that we're self-conscious about. And we don't want anybody to know those things. I mean, we think it's apparent, like we think people can see it, but as long as they don't mention it, we can feel like we're keeping it under control, like that they don't notice. I mean, we're afraid people can see it, and we don't want them to. We don't want them to know what's wrong with us. Oh my God, no. So when somebody actually notices whatever it is that you're trying so hard to hide, you start to think everybody else can see it. Or you get pissed that they've seen it. How dare you see it? How dare you see this thing that I'm self-conscious about? How dare you notice that? You know, I'm trying so hard to find it. So they either get really, really pissed, or they get really, really paranoid that what if everybody can see? Or they get to thinking, what if somebody heard them? What if now everybody knows? Anyway, you know, you don't have to actually know that thing, but the thing is that they don't want to go up against somebody who might best them. And the closer you get to it, the less they want to fuck with you. So that's how I see bullying, is that you just have to figure out a way to take that away from them, to take away their drive to bully you. You know, and if you can figure out some dirt on them to get out to the rest of the other kids, go right ahead. I mean, I am all for that figuring out what makes them tick and finding some kind of thing to bring out about them. Oh, that's always so sweet. So that's how I see it.